Hey guys, Dralik here, back with another video, and in today's video, the video topic might seem a little bit random, but trust me, it actually is kind of relevant to something happening potentially soon. So I was looking through my no poll account and its history. You know, I was very curious, like, how long the period was between some characters. Spoiler alert, 3 months was the longest I went without a character. It was Archer to Don Hung, surprisingly enough, literally the most recent character. I was surprised too, I know. That's just how little they've been giving us these damn 4-star selectors, but whatever, that's besides the point. So, the main subject is, if we look at Clara's join date, it was actually December 4th, and as might be beknownst to you guys, if you're watching this on the day of, it is currently October 29th, aka almost November, aka almost a month away from this whole selector. So please remind me in the comment section below if you remember exactly when we got the announcement of the standard selector. But as far as I remember, what happened was, whatever the big award show was that got us Ratio the first year, well, not us, but, most people that claimed him, the award show that gave people that was the same award show that, as soon as that was announced for the winning game category things, and Starrel wasn't on even a selection for any of them for some goddamn reason, they just gave us a standard selector for no reason this year. So yeah, let me know exactly when that announcement happened last time, because I don't really know where to look. I would appreciate that. It would be really nice to look forward to. But so based on that entirely, I'm like I am 90% sure we're going to have the same thing this year, if not better. I mean, the better part is a little copium. I'm fully expecting just the same thing, but I think there's a little bit of leeway from how generous this year has been, that it's possible they even amplify this selector. And, before we get into the topic of the video, let me just give you guys my feels craft. I'm hoping that this year, if there even is the selector, they could potentially even add the loss pool to this selector. Is that a little copium? Maybe, but that would entail units like Blade, Fujuan, and Seal. I guess saying it out loud, it doesn't really sound that crazy, so I think it's perfectly reasonable they could do this, but again, they are limited characters that they still want to earn sales from in the future on banners. But considering that they have added them to the loss pool, they probably don't really plan on rerunning them more than once. So, I mean, bare minimum, maybe Blade could be in there, and yeah, this video isn't really about that hypothetical selector, but I mean, I'll just give you guys a quick rundown of if that was the case, what would we choose? The easy answer is Blade, by the way. I mean, Fujuan has her own utilities in the fact that, if you have her built properly, you won't be dying. She's actually pretty underrated as a sustain overall. If you build her, there is not really a single fight she can't sustain, except for arguably Lygus, just because of how he reduces your HP by like 50%. Her ultimate heals 5%, so there's not really a workaround to that. Every other fight, she's good, though. Like, that would have its own value, but Blade, just being a win DPS, 5 target, 3 target, HP scaling, so he's good on his own sustain, he has a follow-up. He would just be the best option, right? That I feel like that's pretty reasonable. But getting into the main subject of today's video, 4 minutes in, I think this little ranking of the standard units we would select, this could be used as, just if you're interested in what my thought process is for this account, the future direction of this account, but it can also be used as advice for your own selector in what role these units can fulfill, maybe for you, because every account is different. Every account has different requirements, different wants. Obviously, first things first is if you think Himiko is bad as hell, then just get Himiko, not Gallagher, even though he's hotter. But yeah, that's the first criteria before anything. Attractiveness before meta will always be my advocation for this game. You'll be miserable if you pull a character just for meta, and then in 3 months they just get completely phased out, and you're like, well, fuck, dude. I mean, now they're just here. So, okay, finally getting into the ranking. Number 6, I feel like this one won't come as a surprise to really anyone. it's Welt. So not to completely discredit Welt, it's not like he wouldn't have any use at all if he came to our account. I don't think there's a single unit that we would never have a use case for, except for like arguably E0 Chingshui, because you know she just doesn't really she doesn't have any niches that we need her for at all. Like she doesn't even fit in like pure fiction. Unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case. But yeah, I mean, we'll see in the future, dude. So getting into Welt, even though he is last place, he does have his own uses. Like, the main thing is, obviously, the slow and the speed reduction for enemies on his ultimate. You know, you can guarantee this with 67 EHR. Overall, you can't really go wrong with that, except for the fact that that's kind of the only thing he really provides that's unique to his kit. He does have this additional talent of 12% vuln on the enemies, which, don't get me wrong, that's good. That's great. But it is not enough to justify using him on literally any team comp. There used to be an argument for sustainless Acheron with Welt, and maybe you could still use it nowadays, but the last time I saw it was a 0 cycle, and I don't know, dude, like 3 point something, they used a 0 cycle with Yukong and Welt. I don't think there's really a reasonable people use case for Welt, and just the fact that there are 5 other units that I rank above him just means unless they forcefully make Welt make an entrance into my account, I'm not going to probably choose him ever, because I think before I would choose Welt, I would just choose E1 Clara, E1 Bronya, E2 Bronya, E2 Clara, and then so forth in order, right? If we ever get like 500 standard selectors, you know. But basically, he would have the niche of maybe being an enabler for sustainless break teams and being the only other Nihility if we ever get a Charon on this account, though I have a gut feeling that a Charon on this account would be very underwhelming. I mean, just come on, unless they give us better free-to-play light cones, she's gonna have to use either like Fermata or that one sparkle light cone with EHR that I mean that one is hell no, dude. That's I don't think we'll actually ever use that. But I mean, Welt himself, he's kind of, I guess one way to put it is he's like a mini Anoxa, except he's not erudition and he doesn't really do damage, because his skill has, how many bounces was it again? Yeah, he has like a 3-hit skill, or like I thought it was a 4-hit skill, you know, compared to Anoxa's 10-hit, and then he has an AoE ultimate. So he's not horrible on a break team, but he's just not really good either, you know? But that's why he is number 6. Now, number 5, this one pains me to say, but it's Himiko, which is really funny, because back when Clara was actually in the selector, Himiko was kind of the other unit I was very much considering selecting. I'm glad I had the feeling that Clara would just be more of a longevous unit for this account, just because of how they function and how much more we need their DPS, but I did not expect Himiko just getting that destroyed in pure fiction and how usable she is nowadays. That was not something I could say I entirely anticipated. The Herta Himiko team was still going pretty damn strong back then, and you know, there were still some break fights where she was viable, and she still is viable in them today, don't get me wrong, but there's just not really that many. Like, I guess arguably in the current MOC12 that just came out, Himiko might have crazy versatility there, but frankly, I don't know if we could even make it to that fight. And now I don't really know if Clara could actually beat that. You know, he's just kind of a really specific boss. We'll see if we make it there, but I don't have too much of high hopes, to be honest. But yeah, basically, Himiko's role would just be break DPS and pure fiction bot, which honestly, I'm not saying we don't need, but I'm also saying that she could probably get that role replaced pretty easily by someone like Guinaifen, you know, a 4-star. Granted, we're not getting given out those, but if we ever do, I guess to be fair, it's not like we can't just use them together alongside each other or in different halves, but what I'm saying is just that Himiko's niche isn't the most needed for this account right now, so we would probably select her at a later date. Yeah. You know, she could even arguably go up on this list if she especially makes a resurgence, if they start making more Fire Week bosses, because, you know, Constance in 3.8 is Fire Week. We don't know exactly what she does, but it's very possible she comes back with that, and by that time we should have the selector, and I'll be able to make my choice then. She could move up a few tiers, we'll see then. Now, next person, this should be number 4 on the list. So this one isn't really a surprise either, it's Gepard. And that's also kind of funny, because he used to be in the top echelons of a unit we would choose on this account. And the main reason was, obviously, our only other shielder was Preservation March, which, granted, she's not unusable, but to say that she's really good would be me lying to you. Like the biggest lie I've ever told. I even got her like a pretty good build on the new set because I didn't know what else to farm during this downtime, and now that we got blindsided by the Topaz, I feel stupid doing that. But she's almost prepped and ready, dude, just without a light cone, because I did not want to buy the Herta light cone for fucking Preservation March, dude. The whole reason I did that was just because there is a potential to use her in Apoc Shadow as a, AoE ultimate ice break unit. I literally saw a Jingliu clear whenever she first got buffed, using March as a sustain just because of that break. That's honestly one of the things that inspired me. But moving on, so for Gepard, I'm not gonna deny he has the capability to sustain everything. I did use him on my main account alongside a Charon for actually quite some time with the Tren Lycone, and we were able to clear content quite swimmingly, as a matter of fact, with that. And I will even add on top of that, we had a level 8 ultimate the entire time, which, to put that into perspective, if you have anything under a level 10 trace nowadays, that is social death, that is, the unit dies in real life. The other traces don't really matter. I mean, the talent and ultimate are really the only things we need to max. Granted, on no pull, we want to max everything if possible, but to get the core functions of Gepard, you just need level 10 ultimate. And his major traces, except for this one, but it does have a defense behind it, so you do want to unlock it. He would be a good sustain, but the fact that he doesn't have cleanse, he doesn't really have... He's skill point positive, but that might change on no pull with, man, I don't know. With recent fights nowadays. There is a use case for him literally out right now, though, because Flame Reaver seems like I don't know if I could sustain that with Gallagher right now, so I would be able to use Don Hung Permancer Teray first half, and then I would be able to use Gepard in the current second half. And I feel like Gepard would very much be able to actually work in that stage quite phenomenally. If any of you are struggling in it right now, just put Don Hung first half, Gepard second half, make Gepard always survive the guillotine attack, and if he dies, he even revives himself, right? For example, like, he'd be really good there, but that's like the only real use case I can think of for him right now, and because of that, I just don't have much of a need for him or like want for him on this account. Now, number 3. The top 3 aren't really going to be too surprising from this point on out. You could probably guess it, but yeah, number 3 is Bailu. So, again, she's a sustain. They're kind of a lot less needed now that we've gotten Don Hung for free, which is arguably a Hyacinth level fucking sustain in terms of sub DPS and capability. But she is still a great sustain and does have her use cases above Gallagher sometimes, very, very minimally, and only comparably to like an E0 Gallagher, so to say, but she has those cases. But if we like take a deep dive into her kit, I think Bailu is actually one of the most underrated sustains in the game. If she got like a little tweak of like, I don't know, cleanse and maybe slightly more of a guarantee on her skill to skill on the first target like 3 times for the first 3 bounces and then bounce the entire team randomly after that, just a few quality of lives, and she would be an S tier sustain. She would be one of the tops in the game. Reason for that being, she has this really good thing, Invigoration, which, how it works is you take damage, you immediately heal some of it back, so that can actually prevent you from dying. She has, obviously, the Revive, which prevents you from dying. She's the first global passive, quote-unquote, which that's technically a cleanse, because when you die, you lose all of your debuffs, immediately come back. I think you keep your buffs, too, as well. Actually, no, I don't remember. I think that might just be a caster's thing. But yeah, no, it's very useful for sure. It's very quality of life. It's not needed or anything, but it's nice. You do find yourself dying in no pull more than any other accounts, for example. The ultimate has pretty good healing, it's AoE and guaranteed, and gives more invigoration. One of the better things about Bailu as well is this damage reduction she has. Or, wait, that's not it. Yeah, the damage reduction. If you have the invigoration buff, you take 10% less damage. She is the only abundance unit that makes your characters take less damage. Arguably, Gallagher does that with his basic, but it's not the same thing, right? And it's not based on the enemy's debuff. It's just literally added to all characters unconditionally. It's added to all characters. It's pretty awesome, dude. There's also, yeah, like we showed just here, this trace I'm a little iffy on. I feel like it arguably could be best in slot for, like, Blade if we ever want to use him in the future, but, you know, that would require me choosing Bailu before I choose Bronya. Spoiler alert, I wouldn't do that. On top of that, I just don't know if we'll ever actually get enough use from it, because Lynx gives, like, you know, 600 HP with our current build. It could even be min-maxed. There is maybe an argument that I could actually get value from using an HP boot sustain just to max out her HP buff instead of using Bailu, but yeah, on top of that, you have to heal that unit above max HP every 2 turns, which when they have like 7,000 plus HP and they reduce 50% of it every turn they get, that becomes a little bit hard to maintain the entire battle, no? I mean, let me know if there's any Bailu experts in chat that actually have to do this, but I would probably rather just use Lynx or Gallagher with that sustain, to be completely honest, dude. And then, yeah, extra invigoration. Like, she's a great sustain. I think she's pretty underrated. I just don't see many situations where I'd actually choose her, to be completely honest. Now, number 2 is going to be the most surprising number 2 of all time. Okay, well, I mean, actually, kind of is for some people, maybe, but yeah, this isn't a bit or anything. Yanqing is probably the number 2 or arguably number 1 most, most, like, sought-after standard unit for this account. The reason is, if you watch the Topaz video I made recently, you might get a bit more understanding from that video. It's kind of the same thing here. You know, just the fact that he's a hunt unit, single target damage, he's ice type, he has pretty good crit scaling, he's, again, like, you know, single target as a niche is pretty good, because what you want in accounts is the ability to cover all types of buffs and have specific moments where specific units can shine in that specific niche. So we just want to cover as many niches as we can possibly get in preparation for those shills. Like, for example, there was an MOC on Archer's release that was, you know, you deal damage to 3 enemies with your skill. The middle enemy takes even more damage from that skill based on the original percentage. So hunt units had a massive buff in that, to the point where even Wind Unhung was doing some numbers. Well, quote-unquote numbers, but still the most in the account at the time, other than Archer, right? Whereas if we had Yanqing during that cycle, okay, I mean, we didn't have Dan Heng yet, so it wouldn't have changed anything. But he would have probably been doing more damage even without a shielder, right? Or even with, like, Preservation March sustain. Like, he could probably do on par damage with Clara just in the ice niche, which this account does not have an ice DPS other than a Remembrance MC, which, you know, we can't ever really justify using unless I'm feeling really fucking evil. So it would just be nice for the coverage. He's literally just a Jingliu for single target. He also is a fast hunt unit. He has like a really high base speed. I forgot exactly what it was, and they don't let us check because they're evil, but it's pretty easy to get him to 160 in battle. So he gets a lot of turns to make up for the fact that his damage is a little low, and if we eventually do get a Bronya in the future, we can just run -1 with him at like 161 Yanqing, 160 Bronya, get a shit ton of turns. It'd be great. And that brings us to our obvious, very obvious, number 1 standard unit. Are you guys surprised? I'm not surprised. So, the thing about Bronya, and the reason that she isn't in our account already, the main reason is there isn't a DPS that she would elevate above the level of Yanqing right now. Still, because A, they haven't released new 4-stars, and B, the only goated 5-star we use, thank God by the way, does not want Bronya even remotely. I mean, maybe there's an argument to be made for -1 Archer, but I don't think I want to touch that with a 5-foot pole ever, and I'd rather just use Bronya with the other side. But that's the biggest value that Bronya would provide, the -1 tech. And if you don't know what I'm saying, or you think I'm saying like gobbledygook, what that means is -1 speed setup with the DPS and Bronya. So aka the DPS is 1 speed faster than Bronya. By doing that, depending on the team comp, you can get effectively up to like 2 extra actions per cycle, also depending on how fast you make the DPS, but it's just a very overpowered technique that she enables. The only downside is her skill point consumption is fucking crazy, kind of like Archer level with -1, but hey, we can handle Archer right now. We could find a way to handle Bronya, and there's also ways just by basicing everything, like we'd be able to make it work, okay? Just the fact of her being a variable in our account, allowing RMC to just take over one side, Bronya being a kind of, you know, side grade to RMC's role of advancing and buffing a single unit, that would be good. Right now, if we had to find a forced use case of Bronya, there's a few things we could try, like hyper carry RMC is currently impossible, but if we had Bronya, we could advance forward them, and it would be, you know, entirely unimpressive. But if they have like specific memo sprite damage buffs, like I actually believe there is right now, a summon damage buff, that's a use case for hypercarry RMC right there, unironically. Would I use it? Probably the fuck not, but it's the potential being there is the important part. There's the potential for a -1 Clara, though granted she's like the slowest unit in the game, I think at like 90 base speed, so that's pretty horrible to do to poor Clara, but it's a possibility. There's hypercarry, I guess, Hunt March, but no, I wouldn't ever do that, so ignore that. There's hypercarry Win Dun Hung. He feels like he's pretty much made to be used with Bronya, so I mean it makes sense. It actually wouldn't be the worst thing ever, but it wouldn't be impressive remotely. There's hypercarry Serval, which actually has use cases, like, you know, Nikador. Serval's actually really good in that fight, and maybe there's going to be more fights like that in the future. Just, I love War Armor as a mechanic. I would love if they made more. And then the upcoming unit, Topaz, that we're going to get in this account, I don't think I would ever actually use hypercarry with Bronya, but that would be a strategy. It would be there. You know, we would guaranteed get a Numby after every action with -1 at least, because Topaz skills once, Bronya basics right after. That would be guaranteed Numby. That'd be change everything. Probably would do like 70,000 per rotation, but yeah, that's besides the point. Okay. But the main reason we would choose Bronya is not the current state of the account, and that's why Yanqing is interchangeable with #1, because, you know, the whole point of no poll is in the now or in the near future we make decisions based on that. But I feel like Yanqing is like such a minor upgrade to this account, or he probably wouldn't be the biggest upgrade of all time, so that's why I'm a little flippant on it this time around. But yes, that's why we would choose Bronya, because there are so many DPSs we would be able to run with Bronya if we were given them for free ever. And I'm going to go over the list of them, obviously the ones that we don't have, that would have potential with Bronya. I'll just say what exactly they synergize with. So, Saber, -1 tech, or honestly we could just go 160. I'd have to experiment, because on my main account, I just use the RMC Tingyun team, and it works great. But, you know, the main thing about Bronya is freeing up RMC. I'm sure we'd be able to make it work. There's obviously Seal. She would just, you know, she was like made for Seal, so there's that. They'd be a good combo. Never really liked it on my main account, but you gotta make work what you gotta make work. Jingyuan would be incredibly unimpressive, but nonetheless. Matter of fact, is -1 even worth it on Jingyuan without Sunday or Robin? I do not think so. No, yeah, if you don't have Sunday, it's just pointless, no, right? So we'd probably just go like 160 Bronya and slow Jingyuan, and he'd be like a slightly better Serval, and that would change everything. Blade, like I explained earlier, would actually be huge with Bronya. That would probably be the best thing I could actually expect to synergize with her on this account, but the problem is I'd have to wait until the next standard selector to choose Bronya then. And until then, dude, we might have to do some crazy shit with Blade if he is actually in the next selector. Like using his old unbuffed form, to be honest, is what I'm thinking of, because we just don't really have the buffers for him. I guess Pela buffs the HP scaling form, and Tingyun still has a damage buff, but like that's the thing. There just isn't really, there isn't the most on him. Best case scenario, we get a double selector with one standard and one lost pool unit. That would be the best of both worlds. Or, I was thinking this, what if they just give us a standard character and their light cone this year? You know, that video, if you guys didn't watch already, make sure to peep my light cone tier list for no poll. But yeah, I'd be very interested in either situation. I'm probably glazing, and it's just going to be a normal standard selector, which I'd be fine with. Don't get me wrong, I'd still be great to... I would gracefully accept that. But I would also really like the option of lost pool units on this account. It'd be very interesting. There's also Jingliu is another thing. She would be a very good candidate to add to the golden ticket, because at this point I don't expect her banner to ever get sales like ever again. To be honest, so they could like very well justify doing something like that, just adding Jingliu to the lost pool or just the golden companion spirit. I don't expect them to add to the lost pool anytime soon though, so probably just the spirit token. Lune could be used with Bronya just at 160 speed. You know, I did actually used to use that back when I used Danheng when he came out. Fei Zhao would actually be able to be used with Bronya. Obviously, if we didn't have Robin is the only if there, but that would kind of synergize as a Robin, quote unquote, just not for Topaz. But I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they don't have the worst functionality together if we just -1 them. You know, if I just make sure that I only ult after the Bronya skill, I think Fei Zhao might not be the worst of all time with that, actually. That could be a pretty decent combo. We'd use Panacony. It'd be something. I'd like to see it. But I'm not going to build it on any of my other accounts because I'm not that evil. Yunli, they have pretty bad synergy, so I don't think so. Argenti, another -1 user, could be very interesting. Oh, and I kind of skipped past Lingsha, but, you know, just because of the fact that she's a sustain, arguably sustainless, I can't say sustainless if it's Lingsha. Lingsha could maybe make use of a Bronya, hypothetically. Obviously, we'd rather Sunday in every facet of imagination, but that's the thing, we don't have Sunday. Ratio actually does synergize really well with Bronya. Like I've said before, if we had Ratio, I would have chosen Bronya in the first selector. Would have been great. It is what it is. Acheron probably would be using the -1, just because of how bad the options are on this account. I think, it would be the only choice for her, other than, like, using Tingyun alongside Acheron. I don't think that'd be too phenomenal. You know, energy gain on a non-energy unit wouldn't be too exciting. Boot Hill is actually also one of the better Bronya scaling units. The -1 tech with him, we'd have to use 160 Bronya, or 161 Bronya, 160 Boot Hill, but it would actually be pretty damn decent. At least in terms of no-pull units, because we wouldn't really have Fugue, so that'd be interesting. But yeah, the Herda, fuck no. Aglia would synergize, but I would not be hyped to see it whatsoever. Well, the thing is, I actually tried using Bronya with Aglia on my main account, and I've just always experienced that Tingyun and RMC is just de facto better as a combo, because of how bad her energy gain is. Though I guess that's the whole thing if we want to use RMC in the other team, but I just think Aglia will always need it more, and she's just not good enough to justify using RMC, dude. Sorry, Aglia. And then, oh yeah, and this light cone situation on no pull, dude, we'd have to use the Herda light cone. I don't even want to imagine. her on this account, bro. Like, see, they should have given some of those 3-star light cones in chest. Why did they stop doing that, dude? I think bare minimum giving every player an S1 of new 3-star light cones isn't too broken, and it's a good starting point for, you know, players that might be missing one copy of the light cone. I think they should start doing that again. I actually really like that in the early game. Otherwise, we would have... we're genuinely using some 3-star light cones, like the chorus light cone on Ron May. They need to make more like that, bro. Or they need to put meshing cogs in a chest, please, dude. Mighty and Anoxa would both be phenomenal with -1, dude. I would actually love to see that. I want to use Anoxa with a Bronya, and I don't want to build it on my Asia account, but... dude, I feel like he could cook up a storm. Just wanted to interject, that is probably the whitest thing I could have said at that exact moment. Good job, past me. He's probably one of the better low cost ceiling units to use on no pull. Basically what I'm trying to say is Anoxa would be one of the better units on no pull just with how much functionality he has. If we ever get a free Anoxa, oh my god, that'd be beautiful, dude. He'd be a pure fiction bot, he'd be a hyper carry bot, he would be literally anything. We could even use him with a Serval if we felt evil, I guess. Like, there's so much we could do with him, bro. Finon would also be a fantastic user of -1. You know, we literally would not have Sunday, so there'd be not really a choice. And then I guess maybe hyper carry Evernight would be able to use that, but yeah, no. I'm hoping that they do it again, but don't get me wrong, if we are actually added to the award show this year, it's also an entire possibility that instead of giving a standard selector, we just win enough awards to get a free Constance. Would I complain about that? Fuck no. Fuck no, dude. Please give us a free Constance. The best case scenario is actually that, probably. I mean, we don't know what she does, but I'm sure whatever she does would be more valuable than anything I discussed in today's video, right? Especially because she's a new unit. But one hole in that theory is that Constance is a female, so I don't know if they'd actually give her out. But yeah, if you enjoy videos like this, please make sure to drop a like and a subscribe. I've been trying to post more frequently recently. Sorry, it's only been no-pull videos. Let me know if you guys have any ideas for videos. If you guys want more no-pull, I don't mind doing them. I just feel like people probably want more than just no-pull, so if you have any specific ideas for that niche, let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys on twitch.tv/Drolic if you guys want to hop over. Peace, everyone!